Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tablelands Regional Council ordinary meetings for August. Could I remind everyone to turn off their devices or to put them on to silent, please? Do we have any apologies today? No, thank you. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Also, we can observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, councillors. Do we have any declarations of any material personal interests or conflicts of interest by councillors or officers? No declarations today, thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Peter. Sorry, Councillor Hodge. We'll just return to item 3, apologies and leave of absence. We have some future leave that we're going to be notified of. Councillor Hodge.
Yes, thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I'd like to ask for leave of absence from September the 13th to September the 18th, as I'll be in Brisbane on business. So do I move that?
Councillor Hodge. Would you like to move that, Councillor Hodge, that be approved from the 13th of September to the 18th of September for Councillor Hodge to be on leave? Moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded. Councillor Wilts, and those in favour? Carried, thank you. Oh yeah, okay, I'll just record this. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I seek leave of absence for the period the 6th of January 2024, that's right, to the 2nd of February 2024, whilst I float along the Norwegian coast.
Can we say no to this one too?
So, Councillor Clifton, would you like to move that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I so move.
Yeah, so Councillor Clifton is moving that leave from the 6th of January 24 to the 2nd of February 24. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hodge is seconding. And those in favour? Carried. Very good. Any more leaves of absence? Very good, thank you. So it brings us to item 7, confirmation of the minutes. First, we'll go to the ordinary council meeting of the 27th of July. Can I have a mover for those minutes to be accepted as a true and accurate record? Councillor Cardew moving, councillor Hodge is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We might go to matters arising first from those minutes. We've got one there up. Councillor Clifton asked for confirmation regarding sales revenue. The preliminary financial reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy with the response.
Thank you. Do we have any more, Jackie? That was the only one. Are there any from the floor this morning? Okay, thank you. So now we'll move to the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of the 10th of August. Can I have a mover of those minutes, please? Councillor Wilkes is moving and Councillor Bilney is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. And do we have any matters arising from those minutes? No? Thank you. All right, we have no deputations this morning. We'll move on to item 11.1. The Regional Queensland Housing Corporation Proprietary Limited, MCU for multiple dwellings, food and drink outlet, shop, healthcare services and office, Lot 2 on RP 800 372, 1 Vernon Street, Atherton, MCU 23/0003. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge is moving. Seconder, Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to thank our planning staff for bringing this application to us for decision as soon as you could. So it's a very important application as far as the housing situation in not only this town but every town in TRC. As far as planning goes, I'm very happy with the conditions. I understand that there's 5 car parks that fall short, but the applicant has provided a monetary situation for that to be those 5 car parks to be built in the adjacent area. So with that, we all understand that, you know, there's people living in cars, people cannot get units to live, to rent or what, so it's a very, very serious situation in the housing market. So I'm very, very happy to be able to support this, and I hope it can be moved on as quick as it can. So happy to move. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkes.
Yeah, just to go on a little bit further, it's got to be remembered also that this is affordable housing, not social housing, and managed correctly, it will be a complement to what we're hoping to do eventually down Priors Creek, I believe. So the affordable housing puts a different aspect on people. That's Councillor Hodge just said, people living in tents and cars that can afford to pay rent, but they can't afford a deposit for a house, and this will give opportunity down the track for those persons to acquire permanent lodgings.
Thanks, Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair. For me, it's, you know, without doubt pleasing to see that the state government is investing on the tablelands in affordable housing. It is a rent to buy arrangement, from my understanding. We all know about the current housing crisis and the lack of available stock in this area. Affordable housing is often targeted at the low to moderate income households, which includes key workers employed in areas such as retail, hospitality, childcare and other service industries. Additionally, people on support or age pensions and other members of the community may benefit from affordable housing. So I think it's great. The other thing is it'll probably be the first 3-storey commercial building accommodation on the Tableland, so it may actually change future landscapes as well. So I fully support it.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillors? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like an explanation from the officers, just for clarity and for the people listening in on 3 matters that we discussed at pre-dinner the other day. One was car parking, the shortfall in car parking. The other was the loading facility or loading bay. There is none. And the big refuse pickup. If I could just get the.
Yeah, absolutely, through the chair. So yeah, car parking. So a couple of aspects to the car parking associated with the development, obviously the residential component and the commercial tenancies. So in terms of the required car parking spaces, they satisfy the requirement for the residential component, so 1 space per unit. So we're comfortable with that. So there's a shortfall in obviously the visitor parking associated with the residential component, but also the commercial tenancies. Now, there is a bit of uncertainty around the required rate for the commercial tenancies, given we don't know what uses are actually occurring. So you would see in the recommendation, there's a number of potential uses of those commercial tenancies. The car parking rates associated with those range from a shortfall of 2 to 8 car parks. Now, our conversations with the applicant, it's likely that there will be a combination of those uses in the commercial tenancies, therefore that rate might sit somewhere around the 5, which is where we've got to with the shortfall being covered through an infrastructure agreement and a monetary contribution, and that they are provided on street as opposed to on site. So as officers, we're comfortable with that position. The Priors Creek development proposes to provide on street car parking, and yeah, that will be dealt with through this proposal to a degree. I guess in the report we talk a bit about this term cross-utilisation, so we know it's in a centre location. We know people are visiting our town centre for various reasons, therefore, you know, they might come and visit tenancies within this development, but also the broader region, so they would park and disperse themselves around the centre. So that's what we've also taken into account to settle on that 5 shortfall arrangement. So hopefully that covers off the car parking shortfall question. In terms of refuse collection, there's provision for refuse collection, and the condition states that that is all to be taken on the premises, so no on street or parking or manoeuvring arrangements on the street. It's all to be contained inside, and we're comfortable that that can happen. It'll require some operational through the development and the management of the development in terms of getting the bins to the front there in order to efficient collection, but we're comfortable with that. And yeah, we appreciate that probably unloading would occur on the street for the commercial tenancies on an as-needs arrangement, which again we're comfortable with. So whether there's a dedicated loading bay somewhere along the frontage there, we're not sure yet, but that's what that arrangement would likely be.
Thanks, John.
Thanks very much, councillors. Yeah, look, I might just say a few words. It's good to see that at the state level we've got the housing investment strategy, and it's good to see what it looks like on the ground. I mean, this is a really exciting thing for the Tablelands, that we've got some 21st century affordable housing coming to town, and it's going into a prime location in the town. It's exactly where we want it to be. Certainly with the Priors Creek happening right virtually at the same location, it's going to be a great first step as it develops for the Priors Creek broader precinct. So it's a great thing that something like this can unfold this way on the ground in a community. So I think it's a really, really great thing. Final call, councillors. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Thank you. We'll go to item 11.2. the Agricultural Advisory Committee of 14 July. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Clifton and Councillor Wilts. Councillor Clifton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. You'll note the agenda of the previous meeting on the 14th of July included water and valuation matters, and both the departments concerned were not able to attend that meeting, so they'll be attending at a later meeting. And much to the disappointment of the members of the Agricultural Advisory Committee, because their relationship with water and their relationship with the valuations on their properties critical in their mind. Having said that, the Agricultural Committee is coming along very well. We have good attendance, we have good interest, and I commend the report to you.
Thanks, Councillor Clifton. Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 11.3, Prize Creek Steering Committee, 26 July. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge. Seconder? Councillor Wilts. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. As you'll see, I'll take it as read that it's in the minutes in the agenda for the Prize Creek. Later on today, after the end of this meeting, I think it's we're having a workshop, the steering committee on the public art. So I look forward to that. Looks pretty exciting. So happy to move. Thank you.
Councillors?
Just a quick update to Mr Mayor that we now have the 100% drawings are being reviewed by the project manager today. So,
Sorry.
yeah, what milestone? 100% drawings, Councillor Billy. Drawings are now for the development are 100% complete and being reviewed by the project manager.
Very good. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Item 11.4, Project Management Office Steering Committee, 10 August. A mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Hodge is moving. A seconder. Councillor Cardew. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much. As you can see, all the projects are listed there for the month of July. I assume everything's, of course, we've only 1.5 months into the process of our capital works program this year, so I assume everything's going. We've had that awful weather, but now hoping going forward the weather stays fine and we can get on with it. So, thank you.
Most important part, Councillor Hodge, is that we'll have a new executive manager on the 4th of October, which is a relief to me, if nothing else.
Thank you very much.
Councillors, any more comment on this one? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. So that brings us to item 12.1. Sorry, is that right? Yes, 12.1. TRC 2023-08 replacement multi-tyre roller. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wilts is moving and Councillor Hodge is seconding. Councillor Wilts.
Yeah, I might call on the wonderful officer to give us just a brief précis, please, of how we got to where we are.
Yep, thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, the report outlines the replacement for a multi-tyre roller that was involved in an incident. So the roller was actually due for replacement a few years from now. When the assessment came back from the insurance, it was economically not viable to fix it and to replace it. So we moved it forward. The report also isn't asking for additional money. We'll look at overs and unders with the overall capital renewal program for fleet.
Thank you. Councillors?
Good to see a new piece of equipment. As you say, the old one was damaged, so, and you know, and I understand that we have insurance come out of it, so and it's just about to be replaced. And of course, tongue in cheek, it's all got brand new tyres on it, hasn't it? So that's all. Thank you.
Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Item 12.2, TTRC 2023-09, Fleet Renewal, Compact Truck Loaders. Do I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney is moving and Councillor Cardew seconding. Councillor Bilney?
Through the chair, look, again, the report's fairly comprehensive in why we're looking at doing the renewal, so I've got nothing further to add.
Thanks. Yeah, and I should have said compact track loaders. That's what I should have said. I think I said truck. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I note that the report says that Unit 311 was reported stolen from the Herberton landfill. May I ask for a bit of the story background to that and what steps we've taken to ensure that we can't have them taken away like that, if any steps are necessary.
Through the chair, and so all council fleet has GPS equipment on that to prevent those type of things. We do have security fences and stuff at our depots and weigh station. In this instance, the GPS was removed from the actual piece of plan at time of taking, so it was unable to be recovered.
Excuse me, if you don't mind me adding, was it with keys in or something, and it was just moving off, or they loaded it onto something, or you don't really know, probably just disappeared?
They were obviously very well organised thieves, I would say.
Through the chair, I can add, the keys were not in the machine at the time. If somebody had a standard cat key or whatever they call them, drove it, broke through the fence, drove it to the fence, and then the GPS was turned off, as Shane said. So loaded onto a truck or something, and who knows where it went.
Thank you. Any more comments, councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Item 12.3, disposal of community facilities, Melinda School of Arts building. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bilney's moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hayden. Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, look, as the author of the original motion, I understand the reason to rescind the last motion to allow the processes to occur, and that is for council to relinquish its trusteeship over the reserve, and then an application to be made by the Melinda RSL sub-branch to the Department of Resources seeking to take over that trusteeship. What council won't know is whether Natural Resources consider the sub-branch being appropriate trustees. That's out of our hands. My only concern with rescinding this motion, part of it was I was keen to get the group into that building as soon as we could, and my view was to do a licence, but that gets a little bit messy, having arrangements and from what I understand. So I can just express my hope that we will advance this as quick as possible, so that the ultimate outcome is we get them in that building and move forwards.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? carried, thank you. Item 12.4, contract FNR 039 regional sewer relining. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge is moving. A seconder? Councillor Hayden? Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Happy to move the officer's recommendations, even though in the tables of assessment you'll see the scoring. The tender of 4 gets 1, but it's not been proven that style of relining. So it's probably best I just go to our the manager just to give a slight overview, a more technical overview, if you don't mind.
Yes, Councillor Hodge, thanks. Yeah, that's correct. So the product that was proposed by tender of 4, who had the lowest price overall, has not been proven in far north Queensland, and the known trial use of it in Cairns was not successful, and so the evaluation panel have marked down, if you like, the product on the other evaluation criteria. So in this instance, because the price was 40% of the total overall evaluation, that's kicked them up to first place, but it's not the preferred product.
And we're not prepared to take the risk. So happy to.
Very good. Councillors, any more on this one? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Item 12.5, TRC 2023-07, Alcatraz Landfill Works, construction of Wadebridge. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Hodge is moving, Councillor Wilts is seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much. Once again, it's fairly straightforward, this tender. I think it was the only tender that we received, so there's not much more I can say, really. Happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Okay, can I ask a question? Does the cost of the utilisation of the Wadebridge outweigh the cost of transporting waste straight to Springmount, especially if Millimilla waste is not transferred to Alcatraz?
Sorry, through the chair, could you just repeat the first part of that question?
Okay, does the cost of the utilisation of the Wadebridge, as in costing, outweigh the cost of transporting waste straight to Springmount, especially if Millimilla waste is not transferred to Alcatraz?
Thanks for repeating that there. No, so over the life of the curbside collection contract, the disposal costs of the waste from the southern area going to Springmount would will exceed the cost of the Wadebridge, about double approximately.
Councillor Hayden, does that answer your question? Thanks. Councillors, any more on this one? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. $1 million for a Wadebridge at a transfer station is a lot of money in my mind. I know through legislation that we've got to have it, it's a requirement, and we've got to have it by a certain time, we've got to do it. I guess the comforting point is that if we ever close Alcatraz, that Wadebridge is able to be upgraded, sold or moved somewhere else other than the foundations. Bruce, is that correct?
The infrastructure should be able to be relocated to another site if it's still in working order at the end of the landfill life. Yes.
It's also my understanding through you, Bruce, that there's roughly about 40% of this money is coming via is it via a grant or a subsidy from the state government?
Correct, Mr Mayor. So we put an application in through the state's Levy Ready grant program, round 3. At the time, the cost estimate was at $800,000 for the Wadebridge, and we've been allocated 62% of that $800,000, so $490,000 310 out of that grant program. Unfortunately, the tenders came in higher than that, but yeah, 490,000 of the cost is being subsidised by the state.
Thank you. Councillors, final call. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Thanks. Would you like that recorded, Councillor Hogan?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so 6 times. Item 12.6, 2023-24 Regional Bitumen Reseal Tender. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew, and a seconder. Councillor Bilney. Councillor Cardew.
No further comment, Mayor, it's pretty straightforward.
Councillor Bilney.
Nothing for me.
Yep. Councillors.
I think it's spread fairly well across the region. I was looking for Division 5 for a while and I couldn't find it until I got to the end. But, I'm happy.
Thanks very much. Final call. Councillors, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Item 12.7, Natural Asset Management Advisory Committee recommendations. Do we have a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Bilney. Seconder, Councillor Wilts. Councillor Bilney.
Yeah, through the chair. There's two parts to the report. The first one is an invitation to fellow councillors to attend an AMAC meeting, just to have a discussion of where council sees their position as an advisory committee. And the second part is actually to install some wildlife advisory signage on Curtin Fig Tree Road. What's happened over the past 18 months to 2 years, there was a request to review the speed limit. It was undertaken through the MUTCD manual. I think it's roughly like that. There's a few letters in that one, but anyway, it's the traffic speed limit guidelines, and it was reduced from 80 kilometres an hour to 70. NAMAC members were concerned that that wasn't far enough. They were advocating for 60. Under those guidelines, 70 is what's been set. This is another way of communicating to people going through that area that there is endemic species through there. It is a tourist hotspot where people come off the road sometimes in the wrong direction, being international travellers. So it's just more of an awareness campaign. I particularly would like to see more of this in areas throughout the Tablelands, not unlike that they've got down in Mission Beach, particularly with the cassowary. So I think it's a good initiative. I do note the cost to do this, but I think the big picture is we need to protect what we've got. That's why people come here.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, I don't support this in its entirety. There's no costs associated with this, so we don't really know what it's going to cost us to provide these signs. So, yeah, I don't have a real problem with putting up some signs on the page, on the galvanised face, but the sign writing on the road, I would think it's going to cost a considerable amount of money. If we start doing this sort of thing, where are we going to stop? Yeah, I know wildlife's got to be preserved, and that's just, you know, given, but, you know, our funds that, you know, are hard to come by, you know, is it worthwhile, you know, spending this money painting signs on the road? I don't think so at this point in time anyway, so I can't support the recommendation as it is for both of the signs. Happy to go with the conventional sign on a post, but I'm not going to support it if it includes painting signs on the road.
Thanks, councillor Cardew. Councillors? Councillor Hodge, and then we'll come back to...
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, look, I understand councillor Cardew's view, and I understand what you're saying. You know, costs, you know, we're all looking at costs. But I will be supporting the recommendation on that. If it can save, if those signs can save those cassowaries and those other animals, well, I suppose I will be supporting it. And happy to go to the next meeting, whatever it is.
Thanks, councillor. Before I go to councillor Bill Need for a wrap up, anyone else like to talk before I go back to the mover? Councillor Bill Need.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, just, you know, it's a cost of $8,000, and whilst it may seem significant in first view, a fair bit of that is actually the stop and go that'll be required while people are painting those signs. For me, it's actually a bit of a line in the sand to say, well, actually we do value what we've got, and I think this would be a strong demonstration to volunteers who are in this area that council actually respects the wildlife as well.
Thanks, councillor Bill Need. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried.
You can record that one, that's 6-1, councillor Cardew.
So that brings us on to community and corporate services. Item 13.1, financial report July 2023. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and councillor Clifton. Councillor Hodge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As all councillors would have read the financial report, it's this is at 31st July, so we've only got 1 month's transactions involved, so it doesn't give a realistic picture of where we are. It's just a point in time. As you can see on page 124, the rates haven't been, there's been no rates from revenue come in, other than just a little adjustment there. But everyone will be getting that present, I think, this week or next week.
Yes.
So
From
Monday on, so the next meeting we'll have some revenue. On the expenses side, on page 124, I'm very, very, very happy if that's the way it's going to continue over the next 12 months for the employees' expenses and the materials, but I don't think that's what it will be. So I think because of the employees, I think we're still looking for extra staff. I think Mr. CEO
Yes,
and that sort of
We
stuff. So that's
have vacancies, absolutely.
so as I said, it's just a point in time, the very first month. So looking at it, looks all good. So.
We developed a budget and allowed for some vacancies, but obviously we can't necessarily control that.
Or when the phasing
So
of that, so
when-
that's
so, yeah,
as well.
exactly right. We don't know exactly when that's hit.
Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Item 13.2, adoption of local lawmaking process. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Bilney seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Happy to just move the officer's recommendations. We've workshop this in detail. It is the process of how you make the local law making process or amending a local law. So I think it's straightforward. So something that just it has to be done. Otherwise, you can't amend local law. So yeah, happy to move it.
Thanks, Councillor Hodge. Councillors, any more on this one? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, man. Look, for the people watching, I didn't, I struggled to make sense of this report. There's a lot of legal interpretations in this report. I can only rely on the correctness of our legal advice in putting this report together, saying this is the way we should be doing it. But I do note that it allows for public notification when we go to change the local laws, and it allows for people to have input after we've received the report for change or adopted the report for change. So it's not set in stone when we do it. It then goes out to public consultation, which gives the general public opportunity to have their points brought forward, and for council to have those views considered, and if necessary, amend the local law. So I just want to highlight that. If I'm correct in saying that, Phil?
Yeah, look, through the chair, if you like, there's provision in the Local Government Act that allows council to adopt its own process for making a local law. The Act itself isn't overly prescriptive, and the reason why these are set out, as mentioned in the executive summary, the four main types of local law that council can adopt, and that's the model local law, other local law, subordinate local law, or interim. And the reason why there's a slightly different process in each case is primarily, as you mentioned, in some cases council will be required to go to public consultation after drafting, if you like, the local law. So there'll be a draft local law that'll be proposed, and then that's what is tabled for public consultation or published for public consultation. The other main reason why these are separated out is so that some of those processes can happen simultaneously. So if there's an authorising local law and there's a piece of subordinate legislative instrument like a subordinate local law, the process of adopting that subordinate legislation can coincide with the authorising local law, so we're not waiting and having to do them consecutively. They can happen concurrently. So that's why this sets out the steps that can occur and allow some of those processes to happen at the same time, even though we haven't formally adopted the authorising local law. The other wheels in motion can be happening for the subordinate. So that's the reason why it's more detailed, I suppose, than some of the other processes, and council's already adopted this process. It's just because we're making some changes to the local laws, it's just timely to sort of restate that this is the process and there is a public consultation element. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, just quickly, if I could go to Phil, if you don't mind. You got the model law, the other local law, the subordinate law. You've got an explanation of each one's what they are in the report. But the subordinate law, that's sort of generally, how do you put that how it's actually run?
Yeah, so basically the structure, through the chair, the structure of the local laws is basically you have a head of power, you have an authorising provision that deals with sort of the basis of council to make those rules or enforce those rules, if you like. The subordinate local law is the more prescriptive detail around the parameters and the numbers and things like schedules for council reserves, areas, those sorts of things. So that's the parameters, and it's similar to state legislation where you have a authorising act and then you have a regulation which sets out the details of different parameters and that sort of thing, the regulation.
Thank you. No. Final call, councillors. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.3, amending local law number 1. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Wills. Councillor Hodge.
It's quite prescriptive there and quite complex. Take it as read, and I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I can't say that I'm entirely happy with the outcome of this. we have made some significant changes in there to address a lot of the concerns and complaints that we've had in recent times. I know through conversations with our legal advice and through our governance manager up here, Phil, that we have to be mindful of not making this local law too onerous that affects the majority of people who may want to keep animals on rural res or urban properties. But we do have to try and get it right so that we can make it easy for our officers to be able to control and police. So while I'm not entirely happy with some of the content of the report, it is going to go out for public consultation, and we'll have the opportunity to review this again at a later date. And if some of those concerns that I have are addressed through the public consultation process, then those changes may be approved by council when it comes back to us in the very near future. So while I do have concerns, I'm happy to go along with it at the moment to get that feedback from the general public.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go to you. If I may, just through the chair, the executive manager of planning actually informed me at the start of the meeting there's that the threshold that we discussed around the 8,000 square metres as being aligned with the planning scheme is actually based on 2 hectares, not 2 acres, not 2 hectares. So to bring, effectively we'd have a gap between that 8,000 square metres and the 20,000 that's contemplated as far as keeping stock as of right. So that would probably need to be amended to be 20,000 square metres. But as Councillor Cardew pointed out, these aren't necessarily set in stone from the public consultation, but that's just a practical oversight, I suppose, in terms of alignment with the planning scheme. So we intended to bring that one back down thinking it was 2 acres, but it was actually 2 hectares, so it should have gone up to the 20,000 square metres.
Councillor Fletcher.
In light of that, and I'm glad you put that up, can we change that now before we adopt it?
Through the chair, I think that's something that council can do, is adopted as amended, and bearing in mind that this is only the proposed local law, so this is what will be published for consultation. Council then, as the process that you've just adopted in the previous item, council has the ability to receive submissions, consider those submissions, and make changes to this proposed local law, or you can adopt it as is, or you can choose not to adopt it at all.
So can we just bring that up on the screen, where we're going to change that? So that's in.
So on page 155, I think it is, there's a reference to stock, and it's on a lot less.
Under amendment to Schedule 2?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so there is there, can we change that to 20?
So where it says 8?
Stop.
Yeah.
Just about amendment to schedule for the last.
Phil, the other one that we spoke about the other day was we've got shelters and things as required for keeping of animals and things. There was going to be a footnote in there about building code, that those structures have to meet building code requirements. Can that be included in this as well?
Yeah, so I do have something prepared, which I will provide to Jackie.
Is that the only place that needs to be amended?
Yes, yeah, it is. And through the chair, so that note, as discussed in the workshop with council, won't have any legal effect. It's more of a prompt or a reminder, I guess, to both the public and officers using that using the local law, that if there is a structure that's caught by the Building Act and the Building Code, then it'll be required to comply. So.
I think it's good to have that there just for the benefit of our officers. I mean, they're not building compliance people, but if they see a structure and they've got doubts, they can ask the question, and it's there in black and white to assist them. So if we could have that included in here too, that'd be great.
Can you email it?
just wait while these amendments are made, and then we'll go to the mover and seconder to see if they're happy with those amendments to the original motion.
So where's the second one?
So that one goes in the bottom of the table in.
Councillor Building?
Can I just, I'll just get my head around this. So if you've got less than 5 acres in a rural res situation, you need a permit.
So, where would you like me to put it?
We'll just let Phil, let Phil respond, but we'll just get.
On.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My teeth.
Oh, I don't have that table.
Yeah,
I've only got the
Oh, okay, so you'll
So
have
if it's
that.
not in the resolution.
So it'll be
I don't
under,
have it.
it will be in the resolution.
Yep.
It'll be under not less than 4,000 square metres. per
This
annum.
one here,
Yeah.
so I see.
Yeah.
Wasn't that?
Amendments to Schedule 4
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
with addition,
Just like that.
addition of a note.
Yep.
Big title, yeah? Addition of a
addition
note
of
that says,
Should that be in the actual resolution?
Yes.
Yeah, grass down.
Yep, perfect.
So,
So
as
Councillor,
amended.
oh, sorry.
Yes, yep.
So Councillor Bilney, you had a question, we might take.
Yeah, yeah, so I just want to get a clear picture of what that looks like in reality. So you've got to have at least 5 acres to have one stock, otherwise you require a permit in a rural residential area. Sorry, yeah, rural residential area, is that
So,
correct?
Through the chair, so currently what we've effectively done is increase the minimum lot size.
Yep.
So the floor, if you like, for the minimum lot size is 4,000 square metres.
Yep.
In the minimum standards or the specific standards for keeping of animals, it requires 4,000 square metres per animal, if you like, in terms of area. So effectively what that means is that if you're now under that 20,000 square metres, so it'll be between 4,000 and 20,000 square metres, you'd require a permit, and there'd be a limit based on that minimum area per animal. So you could have up to 5 animals on that 20,000 square metres, and you'd require a permit, which currently that's not required. It's more the minimum requirements for keeping animals, which dictates how many people can keep animals and whether that's.
I personally think that that's far too restrictive as a right for a rural res. You go out to those areas to have a couple of animals and that sort of stuff. It would basically affect everyone that's got a rural residential property, in my view. I think it needs to be watered down. It's too severe.
Can we bring the planning side back into it for the reasoning of it?
So the planning.
Yeah, I want to know. If I could just make a comment through the chair, I guess what we're trying to do, and so I feel you correct me if I'm wrong, with the local laws is under the planning scheme, which potentially Councillor Hodge is what you were alluding to, asking a question about, under the planning scheme, under the rural residential zone, on lots greater than 2 hectares, you're allowed to keep no more than 5. It's specific to horses, but yeah, as of right. So I guess what we're trying to do through the local laws, and Phil, please correct me if I'm wrong, is to cover the gap in between there, specific to the rural residential zone. So under the plan scheme, you're afforded or allowed to keep certain animals to a certain number, and I guess through this local law process, we're trying to deal with the gap in that, noting that, that is specific to lots greater than 2 hectares. So we're dealing with the 4,000. I assume we're trying to deal with between the 4,000 and 2 hectare.
Yep. So if I can just add through the chair, that's correct. We're trying to fill that gap, I suppose, and currently it is. So what's proposed would be adding extra regulation, I suppose, and requiring people in those areas to obtain a permit, whereas currently there's as of right keeping of animals, provided you can meet the minimum requirements. So there's still some tools for council to be able to intervene if necessary, if those minimum standards for keeping animals can't be met.
Thank you. Councillors, I have some concerns about this too, like Councillor Bilney, that we're trying to fix one particular problem and we're creating a whole range of other problems. The difficult thing here is we shouldn't be trying to write the policy in a council meeting. So I guess my question is, we've got the public consultation to occur. I suspect that if we go with what we've amended this morning, those amendments this morning, I suspect there'll be quite a strong public feedback on some of those matters. So I suspect that'll happen, and then we can come back and deal with those things then. I really don't want us to try and author any more work today. Not because we can't make it better, but because we should. This is not the forum to do it in. Councillor Bill?
Through the chair, I understand what you're saying, Mayor. We've just done some amendments on the run just then to 20,000. Why would we put that out there, creating angst amongst our community when we don't have to? We can change it from 20 to 10 now, and then it's probably more appropriate. So I'm suggesting we amend it to 10 and then go out to consultation.
Practical implication, does it? Just increase it 10 to 20.
Well, I think that still leaves a gap in reality, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably something we have to think about.
Yeah, so I think through the chair, I think as Sean pointed out, the instructions we got to address this issue, or to, I guess, bring in further regulation on that issue, was to fill that gap where the planning scheme picks up as the as of right uses, provided we can meet codes, and what's currently not regulated in terms of a prescribed activity under the local laws. So that 20,000 square metre threshold is really just that whole gap. So, council currently doesn't have that provision in there, that restriction, so in terms of requiring a permit.
We'll go Councillor Cardew first.
I totally agree with what they're saying. The officers are telling us that there's a gap and we need to do something. We've got to include it. It's better to have it in there and get the community feedback as not to have it in there and then still have a gap. So it just makes so much sense just to put it in there now, let the community come back to us. Our officers are telling us this is what we should be doing. Let's just do it and wait for the feedback. We have the opportunity again to change it if we get feedback. I think we need to do it. I think it's necessary.
If I can just clarify, sorry, through the chair, just in terms of the gap, so that would bring in what's called a prescribed activity, which is, I guess, restricted, and currently that's not a requirement now. There's still minimum standards for keeping those animals, and there's still minimum land areas and prescribed enclosure requirements. So there is still some regulation there. It just doesn't require people to actually obtain a permit and require council to enforce those permits. So when we're talking about a gap, we're actually introducing a greater level of regulation up to that as of right use under the planning scheme. So that's what we're doing.
It doesn't mean that we prohibit it. It means that
that's correct.
It's not
yeah,
it's a difference between prohibition and having to secure a permit.
And that's what
yeah, we'll go to Councillor Hodge and then Councillor.
There's no point having a local law that's out of kilter with our planning law. It doesn't make sense. So that's why I agree that it should stay in the 20,000, should stay there and wait for public.
Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Cardew and Councillor Hodge, but I do see Councillor Bilney's point. But we have the second stage to be able to deal with that. The other point we've got is the more permits we require, the more resources that is the TRC, has to put into that. And we'll have to assess that after we get the community feedback. Because there is no point in having an expanded permit system, which you can't afford to support because you haven't got the staff resources and the budget to do it. So I agree with I sympathise with Councillor Billy's views, but I agree we should leave the 20,000 square metres. There is a long way to go on this one, I think. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so can I just some things I need to clarify. So the original mover was Councillor Hodge, seconded Councillor Wilts. We've since put in 2 amendments to the original motion. One was the increase up to 20,000 square metres, and the other one was the building structure.
Footnote.
Just the footnote there about complying with the Building Act. So are the mover and the seconder
I'm happy.
in agreement with those amendments?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do we vote on?
If everyone's finished speaking to Mr. Mayor, then you vote it as it's amended.
Okay.
The mover and second are in agreement with that. We don't need to formally move an amendment.
Okay. All right. Would anyone else like to talk before we go to the vote on this one? Okay. Those in favour of the officers of the amended recommendation that's being on the screen. Okay, that's carried. 4-3.
Forward those.
Yeah, I was. Councillors, we haven't got too many to go, but we might just take a 10-minute break before we go on to 13.4. So we'll adjourn the meeting just for 10 minutes, please. Okay, welcome back. That brings us to item 13.4, the Lander Horse and Pony Club trustee lease. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Clifton. Councillor Bilney.
Yeah, through the chair, my understanding is this is just a renewal of an existing lease. I have spoken to some of the executive leading up to this. They were keen to get it finalised. Good to see that officers have got it prior to expiration. I'm right in saying, Phil, it's just the terms, etc., have been agreed upon?
Yes, through the chair. So this one's fairly straightforward. It's, as you pointed out, essentially just a renewal. There's been a little bit of change in the legislation since the last lease was entered into, in that now the land regulation prescribes the minimum terms for a trustee lease, but other than that, they're essentially the same outcome. There is a prescribed amount for a trustee lease, which is generally only relatable to the state, but we'll just borrow off that in terms of having a nominal charge for the land regulation for community groups.
Thank you, councillors. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. (13.5) TRC 2019-31, provision of IT managed services, engagement of Roberts and Morrow Technology for a further 1-year period. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Hodge is moving, and Councillor Wilts. Councillor Hodge.
Yes, well, this is part of course, part of our budget for IT. But as it was explained the other day, we really need to have the process and the ability to make sure that all our data is secured, and so against people who are trying to hack into our systems and do awful things with that data, you know, with people's bank accounts and all that sort of thing. So even though I'm so reluctant to move this, I am moving because it has to be done. So and they have got the reputation of being absolutely very good firm. So okay, it's got to be done. Happy to move.
Councillors? Councillor Clifton?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I believe it must be done. I notice on page 269 of the report to us, we have had a review done the previous year of the RMT's renewal proposal, and at that time our reviewer, an external reviewer, commented that RMT continues to represent a fair price, not detached from market rates. You are not paying over the odds for your services. And I think that still holds true. It is such a pity that we live in a world where people are trying to sort of get into our pockets all the time, and it's just an essential step, unfortunately.
Mr. Mayor, just would want to comment there that data security is important, but they also keep us operational, which is a couple of days offline for a business of our size is extremely expensive. Risk adjusted, it's good value for money.
Very good. Final call, councillors. Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I understand that the importance of data security, and I fully agree. My issue with this is that, you know, $500,000 over a 12-month term for maintenance of our IT services and securing our data is a lot of money. Our IT budget, I keep saying this and I have to keep saying it. You know, our IT budget is more than our road maintenance budget. I just can't justify that. So I think there's got to be another way that we can achieve our data security at a much less monetary cost to the organisation and to our ratepayers. You know, especially when you've got roads out there falling apart, and they're spending extraordinary amounts of money on IT. I just wish there was another way.
Councillors?
Yeah, just one point is, and as the CEO said, if something does happen and, you know, we're out of action for 2 to 3 days, all our staff over here would be just eyeing us off because they'd be doing everything manual. And as you say, to do the payroll manually, it'd be a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Because we're not set up for that anymore. It's just one of those things that has to be done.
Councillors, yeah, look, and with respect to Councillor Cardew, we've got to move on this. I mean, this is, we've had this discussion so many times. This is the cost of doing business in the 21st century for a local government. If you're not watching your news feeds and seeing what's happening with security fraud on a daily basis, not only for organisations like us, but for big organisations, you know, we're dreaming. So we just need to get on with it and accept that this is what we have to invest to secure our organisation, not only the people within the organisation, but ratepayers. So we just got to get on and accept it. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Would you like that? So 6-1, thanks, Jackie, with Councillor Cardew, please record. That brings us to item 13.6, RADF Grant Program, 1 July 2022, 30 June 2023, I have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Hayden's moving, and second, Councillor Wilts. Councillor Hayden.
So I just want to speak to this. A contribution of funds from council of $20,000 and also from the RADF grant program. This is a major investment for the TRC region. This supports projects in the TRC local government area, totaling $182,000, and provides significant returns on council investment, supporting local artists and training, as well as economic development, promoting our region. So I just want to talk to it, and I don't know if the officers want to speak to it as well.
Would Gwyneth or Mark like to?
Through the chair, yeah.
That? Thank you.
It is a very good investment for 20 grand. Arts Queensland just put their contribution up by 5% this year, so it's going to be $30,975. The impact of that, we're trying to gain more impact by changing the grant structure, pushing out more of these small grants for $1,000 to more community groups and increasing that, and we're seeing quite a big impact now on, like, from the Miller Football Club having a historical book written to puppets being made for festivals and all these little bits, kind of trying to push it out a bit more. There's always room for more. We ran out of money this year. There was a carryover because of the cancellation of one gig, but the last round we couldn't fully fund everything, but we've done a pretty good job. We've got a good committee and we negotiate with the help of councillors to try and share it out as evenly as possible.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Billing.
Just through the chair, just to follow on about the committee, there is certainly some robust discussion around the table when we're considering what to support and what to not. So I want to emphasise the fact to the council that it is a robust process for the funding.
Thanks very much. Councillor Targett.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, I don't have a problem with the funding or anything. I just have a problem with the process. The process for me is that committees and things don't approve anything. They've got no power to approve anything. All they've got to do is endorse and put it to council for approval. The process that we've been followed here is that it's coming to us and all this has been done and dusted. This is the first time I've seen it. Who's approved it? So all I'm asking is that if we can look at our process, the committee does a good job and hard work, but when these things are before the money goes out, I'm assuming the money's gone out already. Is that right? So, and we haven't seen it, we haven't approved it. I just think we need to address the process and bring it to us first before the money goes out.
Yeah, look, can I just ask the CEO to comment here, because there is a process. Yes. So I'll go to Gwyneth. Yeah. So look, I'll ask Gwyneth to respond to that, because there is a legitimate authorised process in place to approve these. Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you. So through the chair, it was a resolution of council a few years ago that we would change the process of bringing all the successful applications through to council for endorsement, because it was a very slow and cumbersome process. And in order to streamline the application process and the grant programme, council resolved that permission would be given to the CEO to sub-delegate powers to the GM to approve all grants over $1,000. So that is the internal check and balance in the approval process. You're absolutely right, the advisory committee itself cannot approve the grants, they can only make recommendation. So grants up to $1,000 can be approved by an officer, and grants of over $1,000 go to the General Manager, Corporate Community Services to endorse. So that is the process. It means that we can respond much more quickly to the applicants and get the money out into the community quickly. Council does have the opportunity to comment through the budget process. So the amount of money that we're putting into the programme is identified in the annual budget. So that is the process that we have had in place for about 5 years now.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks. When when the committee looks at all these applications,
Yeah.
is it done in a lump sum, or is it done, is it a dribbling process over the 12-month period?
So
And
the
is
small-
that why we didn't a report at the end of the year when it's all done and dusted?
So we do have two major rounds, one at the end of September and one at the end of March, and that is when the grants of more than $1,000 are assessed. So we have those two major rounds, and in between, we have the small grants quick response of up to $1,000. And we agree, as part of our bid to Arts Queensland, how much money we'll set aside for each round and how much we'll hold back for the small grants. And they do dribble in, you're quite right, but they still go out to the committee to review and provide recommendation.
Councillor Clifton?
Thanks, Mayor. I personally have no problems with the process and with the program. I note, as a comment, the advisory committee met on 4 occasions, you were just saying. The only thing I would ask is there not a reason why, apart from the terms of reference to the advisory committee, but is there not a reason why the outcome of each of those meetings can't be noted and put through the council minutes at the time they occur? One, to keep councillors involved, but 2, to also inform the public in a timely kind of way, apart from whatever else, well, other steps we take. So I'm really asking, I suppose, the CEO, if in the future the quarterly advisory committee reports could be tabled to council in the same way this is.
Noted, Mr. Yeah, happy for that to occur, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Wills?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thanks, Gwen. Yeah, I have to agree with what Councillor Clifton just said. I know we've discussed it before, but we don't sell ourselves on things that we do well within the community. In the community, you don't get to see a lot of the work that's being done by the officers and where the grant monies go. So I think that's a great idea to bring the quarterly report to council.
Thanks, Councillor Wills.
Through the chair, can I just clarify, because the major grants go out in 2 rounds after 2 meetings, so are those 2 minutes the ones that you would want? The others are usually general business.
Yeah.
Ratifying outcome reports, probably not of great interest to council,
Yep.
but it's the major grants that are being offered to community that you're probably most interested in and you want to celebrate, I imagine.
Just at the end of each round, each
Yes.
of those 2 major
Yeah,
rounds.
yeah.
would be good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very good. Thanks.
And well done.
Thanks, councillors. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. That brings us to item 13.7, Cycling Advisory Committee. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation, Councillor Billney and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, we're still working through the draft document, the latest being that the draft is being worked upon. I think we're going to get an update mid next week, and then it'll come back for presentation. So it's still a work in progress. Nothing more to report from when we last spoke.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Billney. Councillor Wills?
No.
Councillors? Shirley or Christy wanted to add anything? No. Councillors, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.8, Waste Reduction and Recycling Act 2011, delegation of statutory powers. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Wilkes seconding. Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward.
Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Don't believe we've got any notices of motion. Item 15, business without notice. Councillor Hodge?
Yes, I have 4 things that I'd like an update on. I was considering bringing a motion to the floor in regards to Manthe Road, the closure of Manthe Road. But I've noticed there's been a lot of work done on Manthe Road, so I'd just like to get an update on what are we doing with Manthe Road, because really because of the road coming now from the industrial estate, all those large vehicles can exit out on the Kennedy Highway through Manthe Road. So it's still my intentions to bring that notice of motion, most likely at the next meeting. But if I could have an update on what work we've done there, it seems substantial. I haven't driven it myself, but if I could just get an update on what's happening there.
You want to take that, David?
So it's too dusty for me to do it.
Through the chair, we've in the last couple of weeks graded the shoulders along Manthe Road, and traffic counters have just been put out this week for probably leaving them out for about 3 weeks to get a traffic count before the next TAC meeting in late September.
With the view of?
It doesn't answer, yeah, okay. So basically what we've done is we've just done a bit of work to make it a little bit safer than what it was.
Yep. So the shoulders have been graded, brought back up, so they.
Okay. With that, it will be my intention that I bring back a motion for the next OCM. Thanks for that.
The next item, Councillor Hodge.
Yes, thank you. Manthe Road. I've been getting a fair few telephone calls and people are watching and wanting to know what's going on with the Melinda Falls Caravan Park. So previously I asked Shane, would he be able to give us an update to what's going on, because as we all know, and they know, the original resolution was to get to an expert and to be moved back, I think, to the May meeting or the April meeting. So it's it's way off now. So for the people out in the land area, can we have an update on what's going on with the expressions of interest to lease the Melinda Falls Caravan Park?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair.
Could you, excuse me if you don't mind, so people could hear, if you don't mind?
Thank you. So we have a contract with LJ Hooker Atherton and property sales consultant Alex Payne to run the EOI process as per council resolution. So the expression of interest for a 30-year commercial lease went live on the 17th of August and submissions closed on the 21st of September. Interested tenders, there is the advertisement on the LJ Hooker site. We also have it up on our website for the TenderLink portal for running that process.
So basically, we've put a tender out through our own tender process, through TenderLink, which we a normal process, for the process of EIO for the Melinda Falls Caravan Park.
Yep.
I did get that tender through my personal email. Like I didn't get through my council one, but I got through my personal one.
Yep.
And that finishes on the 21st of September.
Yes, Councillor, and then from there, an assessment will be made, shortlisted and presented to Council in October with recommendation.
LJ Hooker will be doing the presentation, will it?
Yep. Presentation information is directed to them, and then of course if we have to issue an addendum or something in line with the procurement process, that will go through the tender link.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you.
My next one is the Davies Road water supply. If I could get an update from the manager on the engineering side and the planning side of where we're at. I'm led to believe that the White development is fully sold, and I think the first stage of Headley's is nearly 70% sold already. So basically the question is where we're at with planning where we at with the planning side of it? Because the resolution, the last one, the resolution, we all know what the resolution was. I'm not.
Comfortable to answer the question?
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I should have warned you.
I wasn't listening anyway.
He was. Yes, I'd like to know.
Hang on.
Okay, so I'd like to know, with that, the resolution that was approved at the last, some time ago in planning, where that sits now, whether they've gone with that or they haven't, and as far as our budget side and where we're going with the supply of the water supply, or delivery of the supply.
Through the chair, happy to answer that in relation to the actions undertaken since the resolution was passed in relation to that development and the associated infrastructure agreement, which was also part of that resolution. So following that, we prepared a draft infrastructure agreement on the back of that resolution, which proposed a contribution from the proponent with certain terms and conditions. That was given to them. They've come back and declined the offer to enter into that agreement. Council's currently assessing its options in relation to that position.
Okay, so that means they really revert back to the original approvals, if that's the case.
That was the resolution, yes. Yeah. Which is the approval with the infrastructure charge notice as it was presented to council.
So instead of getting, correct me if I'm wrong, but instead of where we're expecting a lump sum, that's not going to happen. What they'll do is do the normal infrastructure charges as per the approval. It goes back to, I think, 13,500, and every stage it'll be done like that.
Yes, the position is currently, but we're still considering options in relation to that.
Okay. I think I get what you're saying. Yep.
Just on the engineering design side, we've engaged a contractor to do the survey of the pipeline, 4 kilometres of pipeline. That's, if not complete this week, it'll be very, very soon. We've engaged a consultant to do some geotechnical investigations on the proposed reservoir site. Again, that should be completed in the next couple of weeks. We've got a draft set of documentation for a design and construction tender. So when we get the results from the survey and the geotech, they'll become part of the tender documentation, and we'll be advertising the tender once that's done. Possibly back end of September, if not October, we'll have the tender out.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for that. Can't go, Bruce. And my final one is in regards to the Mount Garnet transfer station.
We might just bring in Councillor Crichton.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, in regards to, from the presentation from the people from Mount Garnet in regards to the transfer station, the closure of the transfer station, I am considering working with that again. Have we done any more work on what we may do there if we did, council did decide to reopen that transfer station?
Only at a very preliminary level, because obviously the current resolution on the books is to have it closed permanently. We're just toyed around with some concepts. If council was of a mind to reopen it, we'd obviously have to do some works there, but we haven't done any detailed review of that at this point.
Okay. So that's basically all I wanted to know. how, basically I'll frame that resolution up. So with that, thanks.
Can I just, while you got Bruce on that topic, can I just ask, it come to our attention the other day about it was open last weekend or the weekend before, whatever. Did you get to the bottom of it?
Currently getting to the staff are out there having a look today. They weren't available yesterday to go out and have a look at it. So yeah, that's all I know at this stage.
Thanks, Bruce. That's it for me.
Thanks, councillor Hodge. Councillors, business without notice. Thank you. That brings us to item 16. 16.1, which is the lease end of the Appin and Aerodrome lease to Queensland Ship Surveyors Proprietary Limited. This is a confidential item, councillors. The reason for confidentiality would be negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. So could I have a mover that we go into confidential on item 16.1? Councillor Clifton's moving, Councillor Wilts is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, item 16.1, lease N, Atherton Aerodrome, lease to Queensland Ship Surveyors Proprietary Limited. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wilts is moving and Councillor Clifton is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, that brings an end to our meeting for August. We'll close the meeting and we'll see you at the next meeting in September. Thanks very much.